Let's have a sesh on how the Eduqas GCSE works for business. Okay, so there's going to be two papers, paper 1 and paper 2, but they are different. Let's go through paper 1 first. So paper 1 is called Business Dynamics, and it's 2 hours long, so 120 minutes, and there are 100 marks on offer, so more than a mark a minute. It equates to 62.5% of the GCSE, so it's the biggest, it's the most important paper for you. In terms of how it's laid out, it will be something like this. It might have 10 questions, it might have 9 questions, so don't fear, but this is a rough guide to what you should expect to see. So you'll likely get the first 3 questions that will look like so. So they will be short answer questions, but with no context. So it's an outright knowledge question to go there and answer it. And then you'll move into the context short answer questions. In the case of the first few of these context short answer questions, it will be, what is this? Explain this. What are the pros of? What are the cons of? Advantages, disadvantages to me and you. And then it will move into the context SAQs, where they lead with a few small questions into the final big question. So in this case, it could be a context short answer question, series of small questions which lead into the advised question, which is worth 8 marks. And then the next one will be a series of context SAQs, and that leads into the discussed question for 10 marks. And so forth with another one which may also lead into 10 marks, and that will be a discuss question. A tip for your business dynamics paper, your paper 1, is you might want to consider where the starting point for you should be, because it makes sense to go chronologically through a paper, but the reality is the marks are all down the business end of the paper, so why do you have to start on question 1? Maybe you could think about starting on question 4 or question 7, for example, so you're making sure that you're going to spend an adequate and an appropriate amount of time on the questions that really give the big marks that will get you the grade that you want. So think about that before you walk into the exam and be sure you know exactly what you're going to do to make the most of that time. On paper 2 is called Business Considerations. It's 1.5 hours long, so 90 minutes, and therefore shorter than paper 1. 60 marks on offer, so therefore it is 37.5% of your GCSE. The way it will work is that there'll be 2 questions, and for each question, a context will be given at the start of the question. So question 1, it starts with a context. Make sure you bring a highlighter and you've read the question first, and then you go to the case study. So you're attacking the case study. You're not passively reading it and then finding out what the question is. Attack the case study because you know what the question is. In terms of each of these 2 questions, well, you're going to get a series of short answer questions, SAQs, that build towards the big question. The big questions will be likely a 6-mark analyse question and a 12-mark advise question. And then in question 2, it's the same format. So there'll be a series of short answer questions that build to the big questions. The big questions here could be a 6-mark analyse question and a 12-mark analyse the impact of question. Probably evaluate the impact of this type question. A big tip for paper 2 is make sure you spend a solid 20 minutes on each of the 12 markers in the 2 questions that you have, because there's 40% of the marks from this paper are coming out of those 2 questions. So make sure you give them the time that they need. And the time that they need is 20 minutes. So be careful when you're getting to the end of that paper that you're saving 20 minutes at the end of the paper to make sure that you handle the 12 marker well. I hope that helps with Eduqas GCSE. Make sure you subscribe and like the videos, and see you at the next video.